Hey guys, just caught me in the middle of my weekly spring bath here. What am I doing out here in the yard like this in the kiddie pool? Well, I gotta be honest with you. On this edition of Earle's Classic Cars, we're back on the Charger again. What's wrong this time? Well, let me show you. In our last video, you saw us replace this lower radiator hose down there. But we kept having a leak issue show up every once in a while when we would drive the car. Not every time, but almost every other time. You come back out the next day or a few hours later, and there'd be some antifreeze on the ground. So we're thinking, well, what happened here? Did we not get the hose on right? Is it leaking? No such problem, but you can see down here, spot down below, that shows you we've still got a leak going on. So did a pressure test kit on it. The pressure test kit, unfortunately, we got from Harbor Freight. Did not work very well with this cap right here, the little clamp that was supposed to hold the valve down in place, or the little opening down in place, would not stay on. It just kept coming off. The spring on it wasn't very good, so we ended up taking that kit back, and we could never get the right amount of pressure to really figure out where the leak was coming from. And as we kept looking around and we did the pressure test here, we could not get the thing to show up a particular leak. But one time I was able to look down in here and see that there was some water on the backside of the crank pulley. And then as we tried to do the pressure test here on this tank and everything, which did not work, we started to see it leaking again and found out, and if you look down there real close, some water on the belt, on the very back side of the belt, if you look in the grooves there. Started to reach up underneath the water pump and found out the water pump's leaking out the weep hole. And this whole time we're having issues with this thing, we're thinking, it's not going to be the water pump. We just did that a few years ago. Well, I think this is another one of those cases where parts don't last like they used to, or aren't made like they used to last. So we found that this water pump is leaking again. So we were definitely right about the radiator hose. As we showed you in the previous video, it was swollen up, and it was having some leaks coming straight down off of it there. But we continue to have that leak show up on the ground, and after the system would depressurize and everything, after running and cooling and everything, there was some antifreeze coming out the weep hole. And so now we've got a water pump we've got to replace, and we hope you'll join us to watch us replace this water pump and put it all back together. Wish us luck. Get good access to the water pump. We're going to have to take a few things off, like this intake pipe. We're going to have to work and get the hose off here, the upper radiator hose, because that's connected right into the water pump. And we're going to have to take off our brand new lower radiator hose that we just put on too. And we're going to try to do it without losing as much coolant as possible, and swap this out, get it back on. Going to run it again, get all the air out of the system, and put it back on the road. Again, is to try to save ourselves money, and by doing it ourselves and showing you what we do, including any mistakes that we make, because we're pretty good at that, we're going to try to save you some money too, or at least consider how much money you could possibly save. We'll call the dealerships and the local shops again and find out what would they charge to replace a water pump, and see if it was worth the time and effort. Okay, now that we have the intake pipe off, it gives us a lot more room to get to the water pump. Next step's going to be taking this belt off. We've got to use our belt tensioner tool to relieve the tension on the belt and get it off. And when you're taking the water pump off, one of the things you got to be careful of is to make sure you get this vent pipe, or the coolant pipe, out of the way. When we had this done by a guy 4 or 5 years ago, he was able to get this off of here without having to take the pipe off on the other end, which would have required taking this intake manifold off and everything. So we don't want to have to do that. So we're going to have to work carefully to kind of work this down, so we can only have to work on it on this end. Folks, here's the update for you. We've gotten the water pump off, and one of the key things that we did was we worked off all the bolts out of the water pump, and then in order to keep from bending up this tube like we talked about, we took off the bolt here just to give us a little bit of flexibility. And then we slid the pump down this way and pulled it right off of this coolant pipe. And one of the things you want to do is make sure you take off this O-ring and replace it with a compatible O-ring, which we've got a packet of those that we bought, and you can find those online. So we got that part off, and let me show you what we also did to kind of help us out. Shine the light on the water pump there. We went, as we were taking the bolts out, because they're different sizes, we went ahead and put them in the new water pump so we know which bolts go where. So now we're going to go ahead and get the new gasket on this water pump and secure it back on, start putting everything back on. One of the things too that helped us get this off over here, this bolt right here, was we took off the belt tensioner, which sits right there, and that helped give us better access into this bolt right here. Here's our pack of O-rings that we bought. They're supposedly compatible. Pack of 10 says compatible. Link Lock Industries got this off of Amazon. There's the part number, and it says right on the back here, compatible for Dodge. Unfortunately made in China, but gotta do what you gotta do. All right, here's Matthew again, playing with the spinning wheels. This is actually the pulley that was on this water pump. So double check your new water pump when you get it. You may have to switch this pulley over like we are, so that we've got that on there, and it was on there. It was a cap. This is a plastic cap. Don't try to pry it from underneath like I would have done.
Well, pry it from underneath.
Pop this little cap off the top cap, and then you'll find a hex nut under there that you need to take off in order to get this pulley off and put it on your new pump. So flip the new pump over. Let's show the folks the new gasket. All right, and the gasket did come with this pump, but Matthew went ahead and got a separate gasket that's a better quality, a little thicker on there, and he put it on there. Looks like right, nothing's bent, twisted. Looks like it's ready to just pop right back on there. We'll show you what part it was that he bought after we're done putting the water pump. All right, guys, it's the day after the day before, which means it's today. This is our latest update on the Charger. Last night we worked into the night to get the water pump changed on it, and here's where we are. We have successfully reinstalled the water pump, as you can see here. Sorry about that. I wanted to get my flashlight out because even though it's daylight, it's always dark under these hoods. But we've got the water pump reinstalled. We reinstalled our belt tensioner. We reinstalled that pulley there that also helps keep tension on the belt. We've got the upper hose reinstalled, and we've got the lower hose reinstalled. So we're pretty good. While we had the air intake hose off, we went ahead and cleaned up our throttle body. It's a good time to do that and keep that working in good order. It's time for us now to put the belt back on, the serpentine belt back on, so we'll get that on. We'll start filling up our radiator with some antifreeze, get this thing fired up, let it start circulating. Oh, we also put in the new thermostat too, which you can't see because we've already reconnected the hose, but it's always a good time to put in a brand new thermostat. You don't want that failing on you after you've taken the time to go ahead and redo your water pump. We also, like I said, put in a upgraded gasket on this water pump, so let us show you what that part is. All right, so for part's sake, if you want to do this yourself, this is the gasket that came with the water pump, and I'm sure it's a fine gasket, but as you can tell, it's kind of thin. The Mali gasket, or Mali, however you say this, is the one my son ordered, and it was thicker than this. It is also orange, so we felt like that was a better option to go with, but this would probably get you by if you did want to spend the extra money on the gasket, and it comes in this particular pump, so there isn't a separate part number or anything to order for this because it comes with it. But this is the one that we ordered separately. As you can see right here, it says Dodge truck, but you know, it fit on this water pump just fine. And these are the part numbers and everything if you want to order that separately. Also, we ordered a thermostat, went with the Duralast. Here's the part number for that if you want to do it yourself. And in here is the old water pump, and again, the old thermostat. So we went ahead and switched that out too. Again, this pump, not that old, maybe 4 or 5 years old, but started weeping. So that's a sign, starting to fail. So time to change it, which is exactly what we did. All right, here we go again, just like we did with the lower radiator hose when we replaced it. We've got some antifreeze in the system here, got our little funnel set up, and just waiting for things to start circulating. Of course, it's got to warm up first. So we've got it on there, belt's spinning, no problems. Pump sounds good, which means I don't really hear the pump. Hear the pump, even if it's new, that means you got a problem. So I went ahead down there below, wiped off the cross member and everything underneath, including the splash guard down there and everything. And want to make sure if there's any leaks, we can pick it up quickly, which is hard to do when you have antifreeze from taking the water pump off down there. So again, wiped all that off, keeping an eye up here on this where we connected, and the hopefully we've got a cure this time. We're going to circulate the antifreeze, burp the system, get all the air out of it hopefully, and go from there. Let's find it interesting no matter how many times we seem to flush out this radiator, or in this case it drained out because we took off the water pump, how there appears to be some of this Dex Cool. Of course, my son said when he takes it to Firestone they may be using the antifreeze that is orange in color, but I don't know. Just still concerned that the Dex Cool might be having an overall effect on this engine, but that's what came out. Doesn't look too bad. Don't see really a lot of rust. Maybe it is just the color of the previous antifreeze. But yeah, a few little bugs. They didn't make it. That's all right. We'll see how this turns out soon. All right, gang. So we've run it and run it and run it and burped it and burped it and burped it. It's still running a little bit out of the system right now, a little bit of air. So we're gonna let it cool down from here. And then we're gonna check too. We've been checking as it's been running, looking for leaks at the hose connections on the upper and lower part of the new water pump. So far, so good. Haven't seen anything coming out of the weep hole there in the water pump itself, which you wouldn't expect with it being brand new. Check for tightness around the areas where the water pump meets the engine. And so far, everything's looking good. Even where we put in the new coolant pipe O-ring, everything's looking good there. So we're just gonna let this thing work itself out, cool down a little bit, and then we'll check, because every time lately after we change that lower radiator hose, after the engine would cool down and depressurize, there would be something coming out of the weep hole on the water pump, which is a sign the water pump was starting to fail, which is really disappointing after just a few years. But we're gonna go ahead, like I said, and let it cool down and see if we have any further leaks. We're not anticipating any, but considering what we've been through, we wouldn't be surprised. Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Looks like we've got our own little microbrewery going here. Too bad it's not something alcoholic, or at least delicious. That stuff's terrible. Watch my video where we redid the low radiator hose on this. You'll find out how I found out this stuff is terrible. I have to tell you, this is probably one of the best purchases I ever made. This little spill-proof funnel kit that I bought on Amazon. It's made by Apollo. So really good kit. Really has helped with adding antifreeze to the system without spilling, plus also helping to burp the system. Highly recommend it. Oh, so far so good with our new water pump and everything. Now about that leaking valve cover gasket. What did they say about a woman's work is never done? I'm not sure a mechanic's work is ever done either, trying to keep these daily driver classic cars on the road, but it's worth it when you look at the cost of today's new vehicles. Well, we got done with the water pump. Out with the old, in with the new. One more way to just spend quality time with your daily driver classic cars. Just say no to new cars and take some time to do some DIY repair on your daily driver classic car and help keep it on the road. Well, that's out with the old, the new. Now, time to get back to my weekly springtime bath. Pardon me. Stay tuned to see more from me, Earle with an E.